hosted Gagged and Gay, the podcast where we talk about queer love, messy dating stories, heartbreak, healing, and what it actually takes to build relationships that feel safe and real. I'm your host, Lonay, a relationship coach and rapid transformational therapy practitioner. And I help queer men break toxic patterns, heal the root of what keeps them stuck, and learn how to choose love from self-worth instead of fear. If you want support with your dating patterns or your relationship, you can always book a free call with me. Links are in the show notes. But today I'm joined by Frank Spinelli, uh, a physician and writer from New York whose work spans gay men's health. Memoir and fiction. He's written The Advocate Guide to Gay Men's Health and Wellness, the memoir P. Shy, and Angelo Perota mystery series. Plus, he's appeared across major media outlets and worked on documentaries, including the Emmy-nominated 30 Years from Here. Welcome, Frank.
Oh, thank you for having me. Nice to be here.
Yeah, nice to have you. So, for the listeners, Frank is here to talk about his new standalone psychological thriller, Precious Friends, Murder in Sag Harbor. And we're also going behind the beautiful masks people wear in relationships, shame, secrecy, betrayal, and what happens when we are terrified to be fully seen. Um, so, Frank, shall we dive right in? I have
Yeah,
burning questions.
absolutely. Yeah, go right ahead.
All all right. So, yeah, Frank, you write about secrets, masks, and the darkness people suppress. In queer relationships, what do you think shame most commonly makes us hide? And what does it cost us, basically?
Well, I've spent a career treating gay men. For most of my career, it's working with people living with HIV, and certainly there is um, a whole part of that group that feels stigma about having HIV. So I've certainly had to work with people through their trauma. But even before that, you spoke about the work that I had done with a memoir titled P-Shy. Not only am I a gay man, but I was somebody who was sexually abused as a child. So I had a lot of experience working through that abuse and the shame I felt about it. And that led to the book Pea Shy, which was published back in 2013. And certainly as part of the therapy, I worked with many different therapists. One of them in particular was an art therapist, and she encouraged me to write. And so the Angelo Parada series is a way for me to find a therapeutic outlet through creativity, which I think everybody should do, whether it's painting, drawing, writing music, poetry, or writing fiction. I think it's very therapeutic. And so that is one of the outlets. But a lot of the work that I have done professionally has been focused on research regarding shame, not only with gay men, but men and women and cisgender and transgender and non-binary shame. And your question was, what do gay men feel the most shame about? And I
Yeah,
looked
like,
it up for you in particular. So number one, it's internalized homophobia. Growing up in a society that historically stigmatizes same-sex attraction, many gay men absorb those messages. We grow up thinking there's something fundamentally wrong with us, that we're broken because for the most part, we don't identify with our parents or our siblings. We're unique to them, unless you have gay parents. But for the most part, most people do not. So most gay men grow up feeling other, like an orphan in their own family. And that can really cause them a great deal of shame. The second is family rejection, and that is possibly called the defective child syndrome. That is where many gay men finally have the courage to come out. They feel that they're losing their parents, they're ostracized from their family. They may feel very separated or disenfranchised from their family. So that can really cause them a great deal of shame. And then, of course, there's the religious aspect. Many gay men are raised in traditional cultural religious families that don't approve or don't condone gay life. And so, of course, not only are you ostracized from your family, people you love, but you're ostracized from the community and the religious aspects from it. And then just to give you some other ones, what is really interesting is that as you get older, older gay men are dealing a lot with survival guilt. So perhaps they didn't contract HIV or they survived HIV and they watched many of their friends die. That can cause a great deal of shame. And then finally, it is getting older among gay men, feeling invisible from the very men that you felt attracted to at one point and no longer feel like you are attractive. And that can be really difficult for many gay men as they age. And so to when I was considering all of this, and certainly in the work, I have another book coming out on shame, believe it or not, in August. But for this book, Precious Friends, I wanted to explore what it would feel like for a gay couple
Hmm.
who had been married for a long time, who have a child, and what is the exploration of all of different family dynamics, like open relationships and getting older and being gay, and what that might look like. And certainly in this beautiful area where they live in the Hamptons, there are a lot of secrets, and people wear a lot of masks,
Yeah,
both to protect themselves and to swim in the same circles
yeah,
in
definitely.
secret.
Yeah, definitely. Um, I would be really like into listening to actually what the book is about. I have prepared some questions
Yeah,
for you about the book, but I will ask you in a little bit.
sure.
Um, so yeah, so what do you say? So yeah, like shame basically shows up in a lot of like aspects in our lives, right? Like in
Right.
sex, in love, body image, commitment, vulnerability, and as you said, like different generations then deal with different set of problems, or maybe some generations deal with more sets of like the sets of problems are even much more than other generations, especially in many Western countries. Um, so. So what do you say, like, going back to like what makes us hide? So do you think it makes us like shame makes us hide only part of who we are, or does it make us like sabotage our own lives? So like what do you say is like the cost of the shame?
Well, for if we're speaking about gay men in particular, it is there's many processes. You know, you grow up and you have to reconcile with the fact that you're attracted to the same sex, and like I just mentioned, that could make you feel very shameful.
True.
And then when we have the ability to come out, and by the way, not everybody comes out. There are many people who live in secret and they get stuck, and they get
Yes.
stuck in that particular type of shame. But then for many people like us who come out, we go through this whole other process among our own peers, among gay men, where we're very judgmental and we stereotype each other. Certainly, there's a lot of shame about sexuality and what you enjoy during sex. I mean, there is the whole idea of making men feel badly about wanting to bottom and what a bottom is versus a top and how we attach certain stereotypes to that. And so there's certainly a great deal of shame about that.
True.
Certainly, I think we've come a long way with when I speak to gay men now who are younger, they are certainly much more attuned to who they are. They don't really assign themselves a label, and people are more fluid. Yet we've had to come a long way, and I think many gay men do pay a price for this shame if they don't work on themselves, work on their identity. So the reason why it's important to focus on the identity is that many people misconstrue guilt with shame. So
Mm,
guilt is very easy. Guilt is I did something bad. I feel bad about it. The corrective action is I'm going to apologize. That's an example. With
yes.
shame is I'm bad. And it is an identity, and it is very dangerous. It's caustic because it says at the root, you are bad. And the reason why we believe that voice is not because that voice is ours, because it was installed in us by either our parents, our church, the community, and we believe it wholeheartedly, and it can be very
Exactly.
toxic to us.
Yeah,
So
I
it's
think.
important for gay men to realize that it's not their identity that makes them shameful. It's quite possibly somebody else installed that, and that's their shortcomings.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's so like shame is kind of a chronic guilt that like is kind of built-in guilt that doesn't go away and becomes part of our identity.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think a lot of people can relate to that. And I think it really costs us like this shame, it costs us a lot, like costs us like being true to who we are, living our truth, our happiness too, because if we're not living our truth, then we're basically unhappy. A lot of depression and mental health illnesses come out of that. Um, Also like how we see ourselves, self-worth and confidence, they all get affected. So I would say, like, as you said, like shame is really like this kind of chronic guilt, and it just it affects our identity. So I think then that in a way it keeps us stuck in certain cycles. Like if we whether we come out or we don't come out and we're dating, I think and also in our social life, regardless whether it's a love interest or love relationship, or friendships, then we kind of repeat the same cycles that are based maybe on shame. So maybe we go to situationships or emotionally unavailable partners, or maybe we feel that we are too much. So how do you think shame quietly drives those patterns, even when someone is confident and out?
Right. That's a good question. So when we live with shame, even though we may feel like we've come a long way, we still have it, and it surfaces when we don't expect it. You brought up something really important, that if we don't work on it, if we don't work on our authenticity, so if we don't show up as who we are and speak our truth, we have to suppress that. And when we suppress anything about ourselves, we become resentful of the people that force us to suppress it. And what happens? Well, you repeat cycles. Like you said, you may date or have sex with emotionally unavailable men because it perpetuates this cycle of shame, so that you're mistreated and then you feel shameful and then you go back and you repeat that cycle. The way to get out of it is to work on your identity, as you said. The other part of it is that if we're not really cautious and we don't pay attention to the fact that shame is influencing our inability to become authentic, what happens? We see high rates of drug addiction, alcoholism, body dysmorphia. Body dysmorphia is very common among gay men. You see it where they either become manorexic, where they will become very skinny, or they want to be bigger and they'll do steroids. All of this has to do with the fact that you don't feel comfortable with your body because you don't feel comfortable with who you are inside. So shame is foundational for gay men to really overcome. Otherwise, it could lead to these problems. Not to mention, like you mentioned earlier, mental health issues with depression, suicidal ideation, and anxiety. Of course, anxiety is also attributed a lot to social media because we're getting messages that are reinforcing the shame that we already carry.
Exactly. I totally agree. Like we're kind of like I think within the community itself also we're facing this problem that I think it's not our fault in a way, but we should be aware of it. That we, yeah, like as you said, there's a lot of these like judgments, a lot of yeah, like body image. There's a lot of shaming too within the community, and I think that's just stemming from like the beliefs that we were like conditioned to have like from the society, and then we are also treating each other the same way the others are treating us. Like even if we are out and we are confident and we love our community, but somehow we treat each other like we're treating ourselves, right? Like if we are self-sabotaging or staying in this shame cycle, then of course we will also project that outwards into like our connections and into our community. Also, especially when we see the same things that we feel ashamed about in someone else's life or someone else's personality, and then we even treat them even worse than we treat ourselves. So what do you say like are the signs to like really be aware of like early signs that someone is performing in dating? Like let's say people like within the community, people are going on dates and so on. At first, it can be difficult to really find out that this is driven by shame, like this attraction or this connection or this interest. So what do you say is like the early signs that we can know, okay, we are performing, but we're not actually connecting, like we're not emotionally present?
Right. So some examples that you may have unresolved shame that you're not addressing, but you're repeating cycles of shame and you don't even know it. Look for these. I'll give you three. One is you date emotionally unavailable people. You date people who don't connect with you. You date people who keep you secret, who minimize your feelings, any of that, or people that exhibit narcissistic behavior. It may be a sign that you're drawn to somebody who may reflect something in your past, and you're repeating that cycle because in your mind you hope you can change them, which is never true. The second is look for signs that you feel that it is your job to make the other person happy. These people are, I call them the sponges, and they also will absorb everything. And you feel you need to just make them happy. Your happiness exists only if they're happy, instead of identifying that what makes you happy. What are the boundaries you need to set? And one of the hardest things for people who experience trauma or shame to do is set boundaries. So a boundary is healthy. A boundary is I end and this is where you begin. And it's very clear that this is what I need from the relationship. And if you cannot set a boundary, then that's your own shortcomings because you feel that if you do, they won't love you. And that's not true. And then third, I guess, and finally, is really look for examples where perhaps someone is talking to you and they trigger or activate you and you react way out of proportion to the situation. And so an example of this is maybe your boss said, you know, you could have done a better job, and you immediately hear your dad because your dad used to talk to you like that. And you're like, don't talk to me like that. It has nothing to do with the situation, but you have unresolved shame and you're bringing it into the present. So those are just three examples that I can think of immediately where you might be dealing with unresolved shame that's continuing on in the present.
Yeah, exactly. And I may add actually something
Yeah.
to that. Like one of, I would say also, uh, try to, whenever you are like talking with yourself, try to be aware, like try to write down, like you had a conversation about a certain topic, like internal conversation, just try to write down how you spoke to yourself, how you, like the words that you used. And from there you can see, because more likely, or most of the time, if you are dealing with internal shame, and especially if it's very subtle and it's not so obvious to the outside, then most likely you would be using like harsh words when you're dealing with
Mhm.
yourself. And I think
Yeah.
that's also one of the signs that you could tell, like especially after a date. Like if you go on a date and you really like this person, and you come home, and then of course like there's overthinking, maybe like for many people who are
Right.
dealing with shame. And then from the overthinking, just try to, after this overthinking session, let's call it, it has passed, like try to recall like some of the things that you say to yourself, the thoughts, the feelings, the words you used. And from there you can also find out, like, was I harsh with myself? Did I doubt myself so much? And like what is like maybe also find out later how many of these doubts were true or not true. And then from there you can find out whether there could be like a shame pattern, let's call it.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely spot on. I think, what I tell a lot of my clients is this. When you feel yourself getting trapped in the shame cycle, when you're listening to that voice, ask yourself this: what are the thoughts, but what are the facts? So you imagined a date. You said, you gave an example of the date, right? You come home, I like this guy. How did it go? Well, you were an idiot. You shouldn't have said those things. You were all over him. Whoa, whoa, whoa. So stop yourself and say, what are the facts? I had a good time. He was laughing. I was laughing. I didn't say anything inappropriate. I didn't drink too much. Really, what I tell everybody, talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend. What would
I,
you say to your best friend? You wouldn't tell them they're an idiot or they messed up. That's the shame speaking. So be your own best friend and remind yourself of the facts, not the thoughts.
yeah, exactly. I had to smile because I also repeat the exact same word in the exact
Yeah.
like the exact same sentence in the exact wording to my clients too.
Yeah.
So,
It's
but yeah,
it's
it's
it's a
it's
good
very
tip.
true. Yeah, exactly. So, like shortly, if someone realizes shame is running the show, like what would you say is like a first simple step that's actually doable, that doesn't really require
Mm.
this person to change their whole personality overnight? So just like a first step, I guess it was given a bit like the awareness part of it, but like, do you have any other first
Yes, I
step that
do.
is simple? Yes, please.
So a good trick, which I utilize all the time in my own life, and I recommend it for everyone because you can use it in many different parts of your life, is to root yourself in the four P's. So if you find yourself in any type of crisis or you have a decision to make, pause. Pause yourself, be present in the moment, ponder the possibilities of what's going on. Why am I feeling this way? What's bringing this on? Ask yourself, check in with yourself. And only then can you get the fourth P where you could see the possibility. I find all too often we react. We react too quickly. So, because this is hard to do in real life, what I suggest you do is the next time you're talking to somebody and it's a casual conversation, when they stop talking, you pause. You count to three in your head and then you speak because it'll teach them that you're listening and it'll trigger your brain to realize, okay, we're going to pause here. We're going to think about a response. And guess what? You'll be making the decision instead of shame speaking on your behalf. But you have to practice, but root yourself in the four P's. It's saved me from a lot of heartache and headache.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good tip. I think, yeah, like when it's like at the same time you're listening to the other person, but you're
Mm-hmm.
also listening to yourself. Like you're giving yourself time to listen to what's actually happening and take over, or like take control over the conversation, than letting shame
Right.
take over, basically. So, Frank, I'm curious to hear more about your book because I think it's very kind of connected to this topic. So, your book, Precious Friends, Murder
Right.
in Sag Harbor, it's set in the Hamptons, marriage
Mm-hmm.
under pressure,
Yeah.
betrayal, public humiliation, and then a murder.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what drew you to this story, and what were you really exploring underneath the plot?
Right. Well, like I said earlier, I was writing this book, but I've also been doing research in shame.
Mhm.
And so, like I said, this summer is going to be very busy for me because in August, my nonfiction book, The Shame Compass, which you can read and get the facts about the four P's, are in that. But
Okay.
writing simultaneously, I wanted to explore in a fictional way how shame really affects a marriage. And the lead character in this book is somebody who has money and is successful. He's married and they have an adopted son, but he also has cancer from last year and he survives and he's fine. But there is something that really impacts him. Not only does he get cancer, but he's really coming to grips with aging and being an older gay man. And his husband begins to have a series of affairs. And he tries to pretend that it doesn't bother him, but it really does. And so he denies himself. He denies his ability to be authentic. And so it begins sort of this story that takes place with him trying to come to grips with the fact that one of his husband's lovers has been killed at a party, and the evolution of his arc to really come to grips with his identity and who he is, but at the same time doing it in a very glamorous place like the Hamptons.
Okay, wow. So that's the newest book that will come out in August.
No, no, no. That's Precious Friends. It's out
Ah,
now. It came out June
that's
2nd.
that's
The
precious.
book, my other book, The Shame Compass, is about really coming to grips with working on shame. And I use the compass as a framework. So it's a mnemonic, COMPASS. It's a framework of how to work through the process of shame by confronting, observing, mapping, processing, accepting, and sustaining. And the last S is in service. And maybe you'll have me back and we'll talk about it more in August.
Yeah, that would be actually amazing. I think the two books kind of like maybe it's first good to read like the
Precious
Precious
Friends.
Friends and then the
Yeah.
Shame
Yeah,
Compass.
you that might be well, yeah, because it'll be out in August, so you'll get a chance to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So the theme is like the most precious friends hide the darkest secrets.
Mhm.
What do you think people underestimate about how secrecy affects intimacy?
Wow. Well, that's a very good question. So many times couples will keep secrets because they feel shame. So, we have to remember that for you to feel connected with anyone, it means lowering those walls, letting down your guards, your inhibition, and revealing yourself. And so being vulnerable to somebody seems very frightening. And we believe that vulnerability is weakness, but vulnerability is not weakness. It takes courage for me to show you who I am. And in providing that to your partner, you're asking for them to join you, and it should strengthen a bond. But instead, we feel tremendous amounts of shame because of our body, certainly about the way we feel about ourselves. Many men have performance anxiety or anxiety about the size of their penis. There are many different things, or even what we would enjoy in bed, roles that we'd like to take on, fetishes. So we feel that those are things we have to keep inside. So we wear masks, and we certainly wear masks with our partners in bed, in real life, but we also wear masks with our friends and people we associate with because we want to show a persona and we want people to believe that persona. And sometimes it's easier for us to put on a show or wear a mask instead of revealing who we really are because we could never accept the rejection we think we're going to get.
Yeah, exactly. I love this way of viewing or like this image of ma wearing masks, and we keep wearing masks depending on the person we're interacting with or the situation
Right.
we're dealing with. So, talking about truth and masks, how about we play a mini game?
Okay.
Um, so it's about like giving you a set of statements. It's like three statements every time, and two of them might be true, and one is definitely a mask.
Okay.
It's not
Uh-oh.
necessarily a lie, but it's like a
Yeah. Okay.
protective story, basically. So you tell me which one is the mask based on the
Okay.
patterns. And then, yeah, we see if we have questions following up or we need to discuss something.
Mhm.
We might be running out of time, so I
Okay.
might be able to do just two sets or three sets,
Sure.
so depending.
Okay. Go for it.
All right, so the first set is so the first statement is I really like you. The
Mhm.
second statement is I move slowly because I want to do this right.
Okay.
And the third one is let's not put pressure on it. If it's real, it will flow.
Hmm.
Which one is the mask?
Well, it's really hard to say I really like you. I mean, you don't know where you are in that, but if I had a guess, I don't know. I'm going to say let's not put pressure on it. If it's real, it'll flow.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Okay, good. Yeah, it seems a little hokey when somebody says no pressure. If it's real, it'll happen. I mean, you don't have to preface it like that. If it's real, it's real. When anybody says let's not put pressure on it, it means pump the brakes, calm down. So that wouldn't be the message I would want to give out. I would be really like, I just want to take it slow. Let's see what happens. That seems much more engaging.
So what do you think, like, if somebody says that and we are unsure whether this is a mask or the truth, like what question would get clarity without sounding anxious?
Yeah, well, if somebody said, let's not put pressure on it, if it's real, it'll flow, I would think, okay. My first instinct was to be, what do you feel any pressure? Just be really honest. Do you feel like I'm pressuring you? And if, that's always a good follow-up. It doesn't sound defensive because you're putting it on them. The defensive thing not to do is say, I'm not pressuring you. What did I do? You don't want to do that. Just say, oh, I understand. Do you feel like I'm putting any pressure on you?
Yeah, exactly. And how? And
Yeah, and
from
now, in what
from
way?
yeah, exactly. And if from that answer, I think it becomes clear whether it was an excuse or a
Yeah,
mask.
right, exactly.
Okay, so yeah, second set, unfortunately, I would have loved to do more, but just one final set.
Okay.
I'm out. I just don't mix my personal life with work.
Hmm.
I don't do PDA, so public display of affection,
Right.
because I'm a private person.
All right.
And let's stay in tonight. My neighborhood is full of people I know.
Well, I mean, I don't do PDA is a perfectly logical thing. Some people just don't like doing that, and you have to respect that. I'm out. I just don't mix personal life with work. Okay, that is a barrier, but I can understand work. Let's stay in tonight because my neighborhood is full of people I know. Sounds like they're trying to hide you. So that to me sounds like the mask.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, of course, here the context is lacking. So,
Yeah.
of course, then like we need to have like follow-up questions. But yeah, I would say this is also the most probable mask.
Right, right.
Yeah, then maybe I will have you again
Yeah.
on the show because I think it could be nice to have you when like the newest book comes out, like the
Yeah,
Shame
it's in
Compass.
August. Sure. That'd be
Uh,
great.
yeah, so before we end the episode, Frank, what's one thing you wish queer men understood about shame so it stops controlling their love lives?
Well, that's a really good question. So the one wish I would have for gay men to think about with regard to shame is that it is not a moral failing. You exist and you are who you are, and you should be unapologetic about that. And remember that whoever you are and whoever you wish to be, it would be better for you to feel very comfortable and authentic in your own body because then you will find somebody who appreciates you for who you are. You are never too much and you're never not enough.
Wow, that's applause. It's really good. Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to put it better than that. So yeah, I can see you're definitely a writer, an author, a very good one.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so people can find your book Precious Friends, Murder in Sag Harbor on your website, right?
Yeah, you can go to my website at frankspinelli.com, or you could go anywhere you buy books, like Amazon or wherever you can purchase books. It'll be available. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. And like so basically, what would you say you want people to take or like readers to take away from your book?
Well, with Precious Friends, I hope you find it enjoyable. And I really, really hope that you come away with it not thinking this was a gay story, but a story about a gay couple. And I think that's what's really important. I was really fascinated with the idea of marriage and having children, but also, weathering through the storms of trauma that happens in people's lives. So even though they're gay characters, I hope you just realize that they're good people who just come up against some bad things.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, then I will thank you, Frank, so much. This was a very beautiful and powerful conversation.
Well, thank you for
And
having me.
yeah, of course, I will list all of your links, so your book link and your Instagram in the show notes.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, if you are listening and you're tired of repeating the same dating cycle, situationships, mixed signals, emotionally unavailable partners, and you want support breaking these patterns and building secure love, you can always seek help, whether from me or Frank or people who are really actively like wanting to help our community. And it's not shameful to seek help. It's not shameful to seek support. And even reading a book like Precious Friends or The Shame Compass later can also be one like a very powerful step towards healing. So yeah, thank you again, Frank. And for the listeners, I hope you enjoyed the episode. And until the next episode, please be kind to yourself and to each other, and don't be too judgy with yourselves. All right, Frank, then have a nice day.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Bye bye.